Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Man, do I have a great story for you guys today. Goddard Abel is the founder and executive chairman of G2 Crowd, a fast-growing tech startup based in Chicago. And they've been building businesses for more than a decade. But his first startup, Big Machines, was sold to Oracle for more than $400 million back in 2013. And his next startup, SteelBrick, raised more than $50 million in less than 4 years. But now his current venture, G2 Crowd, is on the fast track to becoming a household name, with LinkedIn investing in the company earlier this year, bringing the total funding up to $45 million in less than 3 years. But none of this would have been possible without the underground network of talent that follow him from one venture to the next. And he refers to this core group as his startup squad. Now, I don't want to reveal too much at the moment, but he has a great story to share with us today, and I hope you find it as valuable as I did. So buckle up and hold on tight, because although your podcast host is in Mexico today, it's time to beam your ears all the way back to the US so we can speak with Goddard Abel from G2 Crowd. To call you a serial entrepreneur would be an understatement, because your first startup, Big Machines, was sold to Oracle for more than $400 million back in 2013. And your next startup, SteelBrick, has raised more than $50 million in less than 4 years. I mean, can you tell me a little about those years and what you learned along the way?
Sure. No, and I think ultimately those companies, especially Big Machines and SteelBrick, came to good outcomes, but it was a long, hard road. Because I remember we started Big Machines way back at the beginning of 2000, and you might remember the dot-com era.
Yeah.
And so I remember we started with a lot of capital, hype, and hope. And then, frankly, we went the other way. The dot-com bubble burst, and by 2003, we were almost dead, kind of out of money, and had to go into organic bootstrap mode and kind of start selling and taking care of one customer at a time. And I think that's actually when we learned the most, is when we really struggled. And then, I think quite a few years later, we really started having success in the cloud, partnering with companies like Salesforce and Oracle. But it was, my first company was, start to finish, it wound up being a 13-year journey.
Yeah, well, a 13-year overnight success, no doubt, because people only talk about the overnight success, don't they?
Yeah, I think it looks like it in hindsight, but it was many years of struggle and self-doubt and perseverance, and then ultimately success. That was, our first company, and then it did make our second company, SteelBrick, which was also in a similar market, CPQ, configure, price, quote, so helping sales reps generate sales proposals in the cloud. And it was a very similar business, except the first one, Big Machine, was built on Oracle platform, so Oracle bought it. SteelBrick was built on a Salesforce platform and built for the Salesforce cloud from day one. And we were lucky, I brought over 100 people from Big Machines, Oracle into SteelBrick, and we kind of knew what we were doing, and so we were able to, within 2 years, have a lot of success. And that company then was actually acquired by Salesforce at the beginning of 2016, and then now operating as a business unit of Salesforce.
I think that'll be so reassuring to a lot of the listeners at various stages of their own startup career, and they'll be looking at your journey, and I think just to hear that you've been through that blood, sweat, and tears, and it is a roller coaster ride. Like you said, 10 plus years of tremendous ups and tremendous lows. And it's just great to hear that you're remarkably humble about it as well. But I've got to ask, what is it that you enjoy about building startups? What excites you? What motivates you and makes you jump out of bed each morning?
I think it's the energy I get from our team. Yeah. And there's one guy in particular, Matt Gorniak. He was my head of sales at Big Machines, joined us in 2004, frankly, when we were kind of at the bottom. I don't think I told him how bad it was. But, then together we built it up, from, let's say, $1 million to over $50 million in revenue. And, but I think along the way, many trips, late nights, getting stuck in airports. But we really forged a great bond. And, then we built a team ultimately of, about 400 people by the time it got to Oracle. And then SteelBrick, we brought over, like I said, well over 100 of them. And now we really talk about our entrepreneurial family. And we have this term that we have a multi-generational entrepreneurial family. And by that we mean, it's really a team that's grown together across companies. And Matt, through work really became, best friend. And but we have many relationships like that now in the company, and just seeing, and we also had to make the bet. We frankly had to bet on a lot of people. When we were struggling, we couldn't afford to hire people with a ton of experience or that knew everything about the cloud already. So we kind of had to hire more raw talent and then grow up together. But I think that's forged a really special bond, across our team. And then seeing all the people progress in their careers with us, I think that's been really fun and special.
Oh, you really have been on an inspirational journey. I could talk to you about your past for all night, but I mean, I've actually invited you on today to talk about your latest venture, which is called G2 Crowd. I mean, I understand that it's the leading B2B review platform with 200,000 plus reviews read by nearly 1 million technology buyers every month. But for anyone listening today that is hearing about G2 Crowd for the very first time, can you offer an overview of exactly what it is and what problems it solves and what makes it unique from everything else out there?
Sure. No, and G2 Crowd, and we started it, and today it's a bit, bringing a model like having reviews on Amazon, so having product reviews, which we all use, or if you're going on a trip to a new city, you might use TripAdvisor to check out hotels, or now Glassdoor's done a great job for prospective employees, where you get transparency and a view, hey, what's it really like to work for the company? But we were really inspired, G2 Crowd, to start in 2012, right as I was leaving Big Machines, because we'd been building an enterprise software company for many years, and we were frustrated, one, by having to work with the traditional analysts like Gartner. And I think Gartner does good work, but I remember it took us 9 years to get into their first quadrant report at Big Machines. And, because they can really only focus on the larger vendors, and, it's an analyst doing manual research, so they can only cover so many in a category. But as a, disruptive innovator with a great product that we thought was better, it was very frustrating to try to get into that game. And we just thought our industry, it surprised us. We've always been in enterprise or business technology and business software, but it surprised us in 2012 that there wasn't yet, an Amazon-like platform where we could go see peer reviews and see what other customers really thought about the software we were using and the software we were selling. And we just thought it'd be very natural for our industry to have a platform like that to make it easier for buyers to find the right software and to really hear from peer users what they really thought about it.
And I believe G2 Crowd is on track to becoming a household name already with LinkedIn investing in the company earlier this year, bringing total funding up to around 45 million in less than 3 years. I mean, how did LinkedIn get involved and what attracted them to G2 Crowd?
Yes, and we started working with LinkedIn when we first launched the G2 Crowd review platform, and what we use LinkedIn for is for professional identity. Yeah. And I think, Neil, you and I and almost everyone in our technology industry now, we all have LinkedIn profiles. And the beauty of LinkedIn is, it's a real person. You know what industry they're from, what company they work for, how big their company is. And so we thought it'd be the perfect way to make sure the reviews on G2 Crowd were credible, because you can see the person's picture, you can see their LinkedIn profile, so you can trust the reviews. So that's very important to us. And secondly, it allows us to segment the data, because, an SMB is going to want to buy, let's say, a different marketing solution, maybe from HubSpot, than a large enterprise that might want to buy from, let's say, Eloqua and Oracle or Marketo. It's different solutions are better for different segments of business. And, LinkedIn allows us to, make much more personalized recommendations based on knowing, the reviewer's profile.
Now, what I love about your story, and I think it would be incredibly valuable to anyone listening on their own startup journey, is how you recognise that none of what you've achieved would have been possible without the underground network of talent that actually follow you from one venture to the next. And I believe you refer to this core group as a startup squad, where essentially you train this team on how to grow your business from the ground up quickly and efficiently. And it includes engineers, designers, sales and marketing reps and customer service specialists. So you've covered a wide spectrum there. But can you expand on that inspirational philosophy? Because I think it's incredibly forward thinking.
Yeah, no, I think, Neil, that is what's made, me and us successful is, having this very motivated, talented team that loves building companies together. And, I did also earlier, we called our entrepreneurial family, and it really feels like that because we, through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, hard work, learning together, we really forge a unique bond. And I think then, once we sold our first company, Big Machines, to Oracle, a lot of people realized once they joined Oracle, and Oracle's a great company and obviously a global leader, but it just doesn't feel the same, as being out there. And we kind of like being the scrappy underdog, if you will, and then kind of trying to build something new. And it is very hard, takes a lot of work, but if you're doing it with, kind of what feels like a family of like-minded, talented people. And then probably the biggest thing, we were able to go so much faster now with Steelbrick and G2 Crowd. We also trust each other. So my team knows what I'm good at, I know what they're good at, and we trust each other, so things can just happen much more quickly. And in technology, I think speed is the key. If you want to do something innovative, disruptive, you got to be faster. And I think having trusted team is really what enables that speed.
Yeah, I completely agree. With that trust comes the speed. Is that just one of the reasons why you think every serial business starter essentially needs that special force of employees that follow you from one project to the next?
I think so, and obviously I think you learn together, and but ultimately it's that joy and the struggling and then winning together, and that's just a really special feeling. And probably my favorite part of every year is we always have holiday parties at our companies, and then just seeing our team, and they bring their significant others, their spouses, and just kind of watching and feeling it. And people are always so appreciative, where they share how much they love building our companies together, and that's what feels amazing, because day to day, it still always feels like struggle and you're not making enough progress. But then year over year, for example, at G2 Crowd, last December, all of a sudden there's over 100 people there. The year before it's only 50, and 2 years earlier there's 10 people. And just feeling that growth and feeling that excitement together it's a very very special feeling.
Can you share any insights on how to build such a team with a special focus on how to maintain their loyalty right throughout, mergers, acquisitions and IPOs? I mean, was that difficult to do?
It was, and I think where I really learned it was kind of when we hit the bottom in 2003. My first company was almost failing. And I think up until then, my first 3 years as an entrepreneur, I think I was always trying to listen to other people's advice, and which I kind of had to. But then at that point, I'm like, well, I just kind of had to trust my instincts. And I think with people, the key was just to be authentic and share with them where we're struggling, where we're doing well. But I think being authentic, being transparent, and then I think a big formal part of that we've developed is a monthly all hands meeting, where it becomes kind of a big ceremony celebration, and then a big part of it is we at G2 Crowd we have an award called the Golden Goose, but all the team members, they submit nominations, and then we pick a winner every month, someone that's really going above and beyond to help the company win. But we also read off every single nomination, and those kinds of things really, I think, really recognizing the contributions all the team members are making and all their heroics as we're growing. I think it really makes people feel like they're a big part of it and they can have a big impact. And the other thing we do, I just sit in a cube right alongside everybody, and everyone can just come up and talk to me, and same thing with my co-founders. And I think just having that feeling that, yes, you have a voice, and the leadership will listen to you, and you can really impact the outcome. That's I think that's a special feeling that gives people meaning in their work life.
Absolutely. So with this startup team in place at G2 Crowd now, and you're armed with that wealth of experience and loyalty and trust that gives you that speed, I mean, what do you think the next 2 years has in store for G2, and how do you see the company evolving in time?
Yeah, and I think over the next couple of years, we certainly want to at least quadruple the business. Yeah. So I think, now we have 100 team members. So, I think assuming we stay on our plan, we'll have a global team of over 500 people, right? We do want to open next year. For example, we also want to open an office in the UK, where you're based. So we're going to be expanding internationally. And I think in terms of, you mentioned some of our key metrics like reviews. Right now we have 200,000. I imagine in 2 years we'll have well over 1 million reviews of all these different business products. Right now we're at 1 million buyers a month. But I think in 2 years we hope to be at 5 million buyers a month. And really, ultimately, that's how we're going to measure our success. Ultimately, if we really do well and we really create the go-to platform for all business technology, then we hope that every time someone around the world is their company, they're looking for new technology, new software, new services to help them implement technology, they just come to G2 Crowd as part of their buying journey, and they feel like they get great, unique insight, from peer reviews on our platform. And if we can kind of positively influence every purchase of business technology around the world, then we will have really done our jobs. But obviously we have a long way to go. We have great opportunity, but most of it, and I love Jeff Bezos. I find him probably, like most entrepreneurs, very inspirational. But he says every day is day one, and that's still what it feels like to me. There's always more journey ahead of us than behind us. And obviously I think the past, and we love sharing the stories and celebrating the past. But I think even more importantly, just focused on all the work and fun and excitement ahead of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that quote there. Every day is day one. And it's so refreshing because I think a lot of people do get carried away with their own ego and their own legacy and forget the basics. So it's refreshing to hear that you haven't forgot all that. Another quote I remember reading was actor Kevin Spacey once said, if you're lucky enough to do well in life, it's your responsibility to send that elevator back down. So with that in mind, can I ask what is the most valuable piece of advice that you can pass down to people that are just beginning to embark on their own startup journey?
I think really being in tune with your own intuition and being.
Yeah.
And I think over the years I've likely gotten more spiritual through business, and I met a business coach who really coached me on consciousness, or people talk about mindfulness today. But I think really being in tune to your divine purpose, it gives you, I think, a great sense of what to do, certainly in business, but also in your family life and how do you take care of yourself. And I felt like once I started tuning in to that, greater divine spirit, it made business decisions much easier, more successful, but frankly also my whole life, how I interact with my wife and kids, and it has made everything feel better. And so I think if I could have gotten there sooner, it would have been wonderful. But I think it is through struggle. I think also Dalai Lama, that the best path to enlightenment is through struggle, and I think, or the quickest path. And I think that's true of entrepreneurship. It's a tremendous struggle, but ultimately it can be very, very enlightening.
Absolutely. Well, a huge thank you for coming on today and taking that time to share your story. But before I let you go, can you remind the listeners of the G2 website and how they can reach either yourself or a member of your team if they have any questions about our conversation today?
Yes, no, thank you, Neil. So it is g2crowd.com. That's our website. And so please, if you're considering buying any business software or technology, please come check it out. And my personal email is gable@g2crowd.com, and I always love hearing from peer entrepreneurs around the world with thoughts and questions. So look forward to connecting with some of you.
Fantastic. Well, like I say, I love what you do. I love what you stand for, and I love this entrepreneurial family that you've nurtured over the years that follow you everywhere. But even besides that and your success, you've still got that underdog fighting spirit, and I think that's just a fantastic thing. So a big thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Oh, thank you, Neil.
There is so much that I love about this story. I mean, the fact that G2 Crowd uses real-time and unbiased user reviews to help businesses objectively assess what is best for their business, that would normally be enough to capture my attention, especially when you discover how it leverages the crowd to limit your risk and enable businesses to get what actually works. But for me, the big story here is when you scratch beneath the surface of why Goddard is so successful, it's because of how much he values the people around him and what they bring to the table too. So although tech headlines may focus on big machines being sold to Oracle for more than 400 million and Steelbrick raising more than 50 million, etc., it's how he trained his team on how to grow businesses from the ground up quickly and efficiently. And that includes engineers, designers, sales and marketing reps and customer service specialists. This is where it gets really exciting. The big value bomb for me here is that essentially every serial business starter needs a special force of employees that will follow them from one project to the next. And this is Goddard's secret sauce. So I salute him and his entrepreneurial family and everything they stand for.
Where do you listen to the show? On a walk or run? When cooking or washing the dishes? At the gym? Walking the dog? Or is the Tech Blog Writer podcast the soundtrack to your commute? Why not let Neil know by tweeting him at Neil C. Hughes, or say hello on the Facebook page at www.facebook.com/TechBlogWriterPodcast.
I always look at where you're all listening to this show, and in over 150 countries, Mexico currently sits in 10th place of how many people are listening. Well, this week, Mexico is actually my number one, as this is where the show is being sent to you all from. So for any of my Mexican listening friends out there, you have a beautiful country, and it's a privilege to actually be staying here. Great food, weather, scenery, history, maybe the occasional cocktail too. So remember to tweet me or email if you have any tips for me on my stay here, or equally just want to say hello. But I'm afraid we're out of time once again. So as always, a big thank you to each and every one of you that choose to listen to this show. Hope you'll join me again tomorrow for the next episode. But until then, don't be a stranger.
thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.